Hey, what's up guys? Phoenix here. This video is going to be another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile video, and this time it is going to be on the Zoodiac Beast Metalfoes deck that you saw me play against in a couple of my more recent duel videos, in which I was playing against my friend who was piloting this deck, and I was testing various matchups against it. And now this is a list that a couple of you, more than a couple of you actually, just a lot of you got in touch with me through my Facebook, through my fan page, or just messaged me through YouTube or left a comment on the video saying that you'd like to see this list. And rightfully so. We don't have a really competitive event between now and YCS Seattle, which takes place February 18th and 19th, which is after Raging Tempest is released, as well as I think after the DDD structure deck is released. That's either going to be released before or after, or like slightly after. I don't remember the exact date on that being released. But regardless, we don't have any large-scale competitive events between now and when Zoodiac Beast cards are legal, and so being able to see them being implemented into current meta decks and seeing how it takes them further for the future is a nice way to get a little head start on the 2017 Yu-Gi-Oh! Season, which is going to be pretty heavily dominated by Zoodiac Beasts. At least a lot of people are predicting that that is going to be the case. But anyway, this is a list, like I already said, was inspired by an OCG deck list, and we just took the concept and started trying to make it our own and playing it the way we wanted to. And it's a very, very fun and well-functioning deck because it transitions between both engines very seamlessly because of some cards that are played and the way that the Metalfoes engine can facilitate rank 3s, kickstarting you into the Zoodiac engine, which also just gets you into access into cards like Dragoons of Draconia, which can be scales, and stuff like that. So, without further ado, let's go over this deck list. 3 copies of Metalfoes Volflame, 3 copies of Gold Driver, 1 copy of Dragoons of Draconia to be searched off Tenkey or Bullhorn, 3 copies of Metalfoes Silvered, 3 copies of Metalfoes Steelerin, 2 copies of Metalfoes Bismugear, 3 copies of Magispector Bambuku, and 1 copy of Kirin. You know, this little engine should probably be played in any relevant Pendulum deck now as well as in the future, unless these cards go away. If Kirin gets banned, then, I mean, sucks to suck, but Bambuku does double time in this deck because it allows you to have, essentially more 1-card rank 3s. You can use Bambuku to summon another Bambuku, to search and summon another Bambuku, and facilitate your way into an MX Saber Invoker play, and that's pretty neat. But Kirin is also just incredibly powerful, as we've all known. But for the Zoodiac engine, 1 copy of Zoodiac Beast of Viper, 3 copies of Marmorat, and triple Terratop and 1 Takatomborg to kind of essentially be part of that engine, although it is just a good going second as well as going first card, because Terratop is inherently very powerful. Being able to use it to go into your Invoker before you Pendulum Summon or even normal summon is actually just really strong, as well as Takatomborg being able to be summoned when you have both Bambuku and Terratop on the board, means that this card's not really that much of a brick to draw, because you can actually Pendulum Summon it and combine it with your Silvered, your Archfiend Eccentric, or your Bambuku or whatever. There's multiple different ways to use this card, so it's not even really a brick in this deck in this instance. But the last 3 monsters are 3 copies of Archfiend Eccentric, which does so much work for this deck, being back row removal, being an additional combo piece by using it to combo off with combination and search more cards, as well as being a level 3 that you can use to rank 3 into your Invoker to start your Zoodiac Beast engine. It's absolutely insane just how many different points this card hits, and just does so much for this deck. But that's all 30 monsters for the spells and traps. 1 copy of Metalfoes Fusion, 2 copies of full Metalfoes Fusion, 1 Fire Formation Tenkey to just be a little splash thing here, letting you being able to search your Marmorat as well as being able to search Dragoons of Draconia to be a scale if you need it is actually just a very, very important thing. Or even not even just being a scale if you need it, just be an extra Pendulum monster is actually just a huge asset. And you can always just search your Marmorat, normal summon it, or Pendulum summon it. So it's just a nice little splashable option that I agree with being in this deck. And then 2 copies of Painful Decision to search more of your Metalfoes scales, then 2 copies of Metalfoes Combination, and 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier to be just the only real defensive cards in this deck, because this deck is very good at pumping out multiple defensive lines with its own monster base. Being able to pump out multiple turn 1 boards of full Metalfoes Alkahest, or at least a way to make Alkahest, and then having Drancia on top of that to pop cards, as well as potentially having a Kirin in there as well. Multiple defensive lines that you have access to with this deck, and that's actually what makes it really, really strong. Being able to make your turn 1 board and use that to disrupt your opponent, and then next turn you can turn that disruption into some form of OTK is actually just really, really powerful, and that's something I really like about this deck, and what I think is going to propel it potentially to be very meta-defining and meta-relevant come January, February. But for the extra deck, 1 copy of Metalfoes Orihulk, 2 copies of Mithrilium. 2 is definitely bar minimum, the mandatory minimum. You definitely need to have 2 of these, because if you use 1 and it gets striked or something happens to it, you definitely need to be able to have the second one to put the first one back, making your Metalfoes engine essentially infinite. Same thing kind of goes with Alkahest, except Alkahest is just more likely to be played at 2 because you can typically summon 2 on your opponent's turn, especially if you're doing the Mithrilium play into Alkahest with double full Metalfoes Fusion down. You're usually able to summon 2 Alkahests during your opponent's turn. and that's actually just why these are played at 2. But these are also just recyclable off Mithrilium, so you can essentially just keep summoning them for the rest of the game. Now, the big thing I would want to do is fit in a 3rd Mithrilium in the extra deck, but there's just so little room in this extra deck, as you can see. Like, there's so many spaces that are being allocated towards things, and that's probably something that is going to be an issue for this deck, is extra deck space being really tight. But for the Xyz, 2 copies of Daigusto Emeril, essentially, you pump out rank 4s like nobody's business, and making Daigusto Emeril a 2 of makes the rest of your engine infinite. It makes your entire deck infinite. Between Mithrilium making your Metalfoes spell and trap engine infinite, and Emeril making your monster engine infinite, it's a very, very good like trade-off, being able to just go turn 1 Emeril, put back most of your Marmorats and your Tigris, so that you can just immediately do another Marmorat play next turn, is very, very huge. Very, very big. It's definitely something that this deck uses very effectively to its advantage. I haven't seen a deck that's used double Emeril so effectively since full power Necros and like Clown Necros. Like, the deck is absolutely insane just how much you power into your cards using Emeril. And Emeril does double time in this deck as well, being able to summon your Metalfoes monsters from graveyard since they are vanillas. If you fuse from hand, or if you detached off an Xyz material or whatever, this alongside Mithrilium essentially let you get all of your Metalfoes resources that go to the grave back into your either field, deck, or Pendulum extra deck. Like, it's very, very effective to play multiples of this card, because the second one will always put back the first, essentially meaning your engine is infinite. But 1 Abyss Dweller, because it's generically good, and then for a very small Zoodiac Beast Xyz engine, 2 copies of Drancia, 1 copy of Tigris, 1 copy of Bullhorn, and 1 copy of Wildbow. Now, with the Emeralds, you usually just end up putting back all of these cards anyway. Drancia is the only one that really comes up at 2, because you are able to put a card on top of Drancia, and then you're able to make Drancia again and just fuel higher, amounts of disruption. And that's actually just really cool. But then the 2 rank 3s that are run are 1 Phantom Knight's Breaksword and 1 MX Saber Invoker. Invoker is obvious to get you into the Marmorat plays, and Breaksword is very useful because you are able to go second and open something like Terror Top, and go Terror Top into Breaksword without using your normal summon or your Pendulum summon. And if you had a Metalfoes scale, that's even better for you, because you could actually pop a card and set combination and use Breaksword to pop your combination, and then pop your opponent's card, getting a search, essentially comboing off further. So it's a really nice little interaction there. But arguably Grand Pulse might just be a little bit better, because there are some instances where you do want to go Terror Top into like Grand Pulse and pop a set combination just to get more cards. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. This card just seems a lot more versatile, hence why it is being played. But that is the deck list. There are some changes that could probably be made to it going forward as we get closer to the release of the Zoodiac Beast cards. But ultimately, I think this deck is very solid, and it does a very, very large amount of things. Its ceiling is very high, being both a Pendulum deck and using one of the best little rank 4 toolbox engines that's ever been released in the game, the Zoodiac Beast engine. Like, this deck just does a lot. You could even, like, argue, like, make a case in point for maybe putting a Bearman into this deck, so you could just draw into 3 cards and just do that play off the Terror Tops or whatever. Or you could Pendulum summon into your Invoker play and do the Bearman play. So there could be room made for that even, and that's actually something I've contemplated doing as well. But anyway, that's it for this deck list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you like this deck. Let me know if you are excited for the Zoodiac Beasts, if you're terrified at the Zoodiac Beasts coming out, if you think that it's another horrible archetype that Konami designed. All this sort of nonsense. I'm curious as to your opinions. Leave them in the comments down below. But otherwise, if you want to support the channel and help me grow and help me, survive in this weird YouTube world that we're living in right now, where they're just making changes willy-nilly, I'd like to ask you to, if you're new here, subscribe. 1, 2, like the video. 3, if you like this content, you know some people that might also like my content, maybe share my videos around to them, encourage them to watch and maybe subscribe as well. And as well as if you are already subscribed and you want to get notifications of when I put videos up, if you don't want to miss any uploads, there's a little bell button next to the subscribe button down below that if you click that, it will give you notifications of every time I put a video up, so that you will not miss any uploads being buried by your subscription feed or just not being seen by them. So those are all things you could do if you want to stay in the PhoenixFlareX circle, essentially. But other than that, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this deck. I'm very curious as to about your opinions. Other than that, thanks for watching as always. Thank you for your time as usual, and take care, guys. I will see you in the next video.